Hey guys, Tarke here, and to save you from having to see yet another streamer practice their literacy skills, I've done a TLDR of the patch notes. I've made a list of the most interesting things in my opinion. There might be some things in here that you are excited for, which I'm not. That's completely fine, but this is my TLDR. I'm also going to quickly go over the passive skill tree stuff afterwards, but let's just get into the stuff. So, to start out, I've made a list of all the interesting new and reworked Varl skills, in my opinion, and then all the most notable skill buffs, so let's get into it. So, Varl Earthquake now does this really cool thing where you do a series of like aftershocks where you move. Reminds me a lot of the Quake barbs from D3. One thing which is a little bit questionable about it is it's based on you walking, so I don't know how that's really going to interact with, like, you know, stuff like leap slam, etc. Seems a bit awkward. Maybe it'll still proc, but still, it'll be cool. You know, you'd press it, and then you have all these aftershocks following you. It's just very cool thematically. Varl Blight is a very big buff to either just straight Blight builds or Essence Rain Contagion builds. Basically, when you press it, you get these pulsating waves, which just instantly apply blights and looks like a more powerful hinder. Just getting more AoE coverage, really nice, especially if you can use something like Occultist, Profane Bloom, etc. Should be really nice to clean up incursions. Varl Blade Vortex. The Blade Vortex rework I'll get into later, but basically you now just get a second source. Thank you. A second source of Blade Vortex, which just makes everything feel significantly more oomphy. Varl Righteous Fire is very, very interesting. We haven't seen any nerfs to Righteous Fire in this patch, and they haven't done the heavy equilibrium changes either, so it survived for another patch. The way that easy bait. The way that Varl Righteous Fire works now is it sacrifices 30% of your life or energy shield, and then you do like a crazy super burn on any nearby enemies, and also it gives a big buff to spell damage. So you might see people actually use it just for the spell damage buff to, you know, get some extra single target damage on bosses. And you have to get that AdSense money somehow, so apparently baiting subs is how you do it these days. So, the most interesting skill buffs. Fire Trap has been significantly buffed across the board, but it also has 200% damage effectiveness, which is absolutely insane. So not only is Fire Trap just like bonkers anyway, they've given it 200% damage effectiveness for no reason. So Fire Trap is going to be absolutely disgusting.
Is he autistic as fuck or a genius?
A similar thing, which is very, very interesting, is how Lightning Trap has been given +1 base crit and 100% crit chance versus shocked enemies. So with all the buffs to traps, having these very powerful buffs just layered on top of it just makes it really, really powerful. Infernal Blow has been reworked and now performs very similarly to something like Explosive Arrow. It has inbuilt stacks, and when you reach your maximum stacks, it explodes, meaning it has very good single target potential now. Rain of Arrows is just like huge and looks like a very good start skill for any kind of bow build. You can also do like Rain of Arrow Trappers, etc. Don't do Rain of Arrow Mines, that'll feel terrible. Cold Snap looks very interesting, but more as a utility setup in my opinion. So basically what happens is, whenever a mob dies affected by the damage over time it does, you get Frenzy Charge generation. So you could just like slap it into a random cast, and I was taking someone get some free Frenzy Charges. You could do a pure Cold Snap build, but I think you'll see a lot of use as just a utility thing. Power Siphon looks very good. Very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But it still has to compete with Kinetic Blast. And Kinetic Blast hasn't been nerfed in any way. And KB is just absolutely ridiculously OP. So with that in mind, yeah, Power Siphon is good now, but it's not KB. Lacerate has been significantly buffed. I have to mention the fact that it has been significantly buffed. Personally, I'm not that interested, but if you like Lacerate, Lacerate's now much, much better. Arc is beyond insane. Everyone's going to be playing Arc. It's just broken. Ellie Hit looks very powerful with Avatar of Fire memes. I'd mostly play either Ellie Hit wands or bows. The problem with doing Ellie Hit wands, though, again, it's not Kinetic Blast, so you need to think about that. Stormburst has been given significant buffs to damage, just quality of life, area. Just, yeah, Stormburst is finally good. You can finally try out Stormburst. I'm excited to try out Stormburst at some point. It'll never be tier 1 clear speed because it's a channeled skill, but it looks good. Orb of Storms has been given some very interesting damage potential. It's been given a lot of raw damage, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of weird Orb of Storm single target setups.
Is he autistic as fuck, or a genius?
I'm not sure. Ball Lightning, again, Ball Lightning's been given crazy damage numbers. Some people are worried that Ball Lightning's been nerfed because of some of the changes they've done to it. Now, they've made it move faster, they've buffed the damage, but they've also made it hit more frequently. They have also stopped the lab enchant from existing, the reduced proj speed, but that doesn't matter. You can still hit the cap. You know, there's a cap on the amount of times it can hit an enemy. You can still hit that with just a little bit of reduced proj speed. So I think Ball Lightning is going to be very solid for self-cast or for traps. I think it's going to be really, really good. Earthquake, they've done a very good surprise change. The aftershock delay has been changed from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. That's insane. It's going to make it feel much more responsive. It makes it feel way less mandatory to have Helm enchants. And it also did receive some damage buffs. Frostbomb had similar treatment. Not only did it get an absolutely insane damage buff, it now has 1.4k base cold damage, which is like ridiculously high. It also has a 2 second down from a 3.5 second delay. If you want to do a cold trapper or a cold to fire trapper, Frostbomb traps is going to be your single target of choice, I think. Fireballs gained damage, cast speed, damage effectiveness, and AoE. I don't know how impactful this will be for Ignite builds, but for just raw Fireball builds, it's looking very powerful. Magma Orb has been buffed in terms of damage. It's also received a change to animation speed. I believe the projectile speed is the same, but it does the animation faster, so it hits things quicker. It'll have the same proj speed, it'll just hit faster. So that looks very good. Chris did say there will be a new visual for it, but that wasn't mentioned in the patch notes. It does also mean that Magma Orb will be more aids to listen to, because it will bounce faster. But yeah, it's looking powerful. Spark has been significantly buffed across the board. Not only has Vile Spark been buffed, but Spark has gained raw damage, damage effectiveness. It gains up to 19% projectile speed with levels, which means it travels further. And also its base duration has been buffed to 2 seconds from 1.5. Insane. Spark is looking really, really nice. For people who want to do Spark traps, I mean, you could, but I don't think it'll be better than some of the other lightning trap options, but the option is there. Body Swap has received a pretty big buff to cast speed. It's gone from 0.8 seconds to 0.6 second. Might be interesting for self-cast. This won't affect Poet's Pen builds, but that might be interesting for some weird like Body Swap Totem build, maybe. Very interesting. Again, Blade Vortex looks very powerful. Blade Vortex has been buffed with the changes. Now has a 10-stack max and a faster hit rate. Freeze Pulse has received significant buffs to its damage and just general quality of life with how the damage drop-off works. I'm personally very excited for Phase Run. Phase Run has gone from a 0.5 to a 0.25 second cast time. That'll make it feel a lot better for any like wanders who want to use it for just general mobility, or like miners, or for the guys who are obsessed with Shimmeron. Phase Run being better is very nice. And then some like shitty Xeno skills like Ice Crash have been buffed. So for Xeno players, that's really good. To explain some of the raw trap changes, there's now a base trap limit of 15. This is absolutely like ridiculous. You can get an additional 3, I believe, base trap increased on the skill tree, and there'll probably be some items which might impact it. So you're looking at anywhere between like 15, maybe 20-ish base trap limit. This is huge. Nearly every single trap has no cooldown, so all the base traps have no cooldown, aside from Bear Trap and the new 8-second traps, and Conversion Trap is now a 4-second. And the Trap Support Gem has no cooldown. Now, the Trap Support Gem has lost its more multiplier. Some people think this is a big nerf, but it really doesn't matter. Traps get so much free damage, and the fact that traps have no cooldown and they have a much higher trap limit, this is still huge. This is like absolutely bonkers, and always use cluster trap over multi-trap, just on that topic. One big thing I've been complaining about for a while now is how skill effect duration interferes with traps. I've said that they should separate the two, and they've done exactly that. So now the way that trap duration works is trap duration is independent and can be reduced by trap duration from Jules or Sunblast belt. but skill effect duration on the tree won't interfere with it. You can still scale skill effect duration if you want to do a duration-based trapper, for, say, flamethrower trap, but you won't be penalized. So this is a very, very nice change. It's a huge change. I'll now just quickly show off some of the changes they've done to the trap supports. And for anyone wondering how to route a trapper, the classes I've got here, you always want these. Obviously, if you're doing a life build, you want to route through, you know, this way. If you're doing a CI build, route through the top here, or a low life. But yeah, you want to get blast cascading. If you loads of crit multi, you nearly always go crit with traps. If you're doing a non-crit trapper, you messed up. And we've seen some buffs to the start of Shadow Start. It's just lots of free damage here. This has been changed to global damage from elemental damage. This is very, very nice. And then in here, we have some new trap nodes. 4% trap throwing speed. Trap throwing speed is always nice. You probably will even take this, but it's not going to be a high priority pick. This is just a good damage node. This gives you additional trap, mine damage, additional remote mine. Very, very powerful node. A lot of the nodes have also received just a lot of increased trap trigger AoE and trap throwing speed. Very, very huge. Absolutely insanely good. Very notable, this cluster here. These are, like, ridiculously OP. So this hasn't changed. You've now got some extra crit here. Devastating Devices gives you 50% crit for traps, 50% crit for mines, 40% trap trigger AoE, 40% mine detonation. Mine detonation increases the targeting range of your mine. So if like arc mines, very powerful build. Very, very important. And getting 50% crit is just really good. More crit multi, and then more trap trigger AoE, mine detonation area effect, and some penetration. If you're doing a Saboteur with chain reaction, you want all the trap trigger AoE you can. If you're doing Sunblast style, you don't need the trap trigger AoE because you're getting your stuff to proc that way. Master Sapper is nearly always worth taking. Most people will do this build as life. So for most people, it's only 2 travel points to go to. And you come down, you get some trap damage, trap trigger AoE, trap damage, trap throwing speed, trap damage, trap trigger AoE, 2 additional traps, very, very big, and frenzy charge generation. It's worth noting that you're getting a lot of free frenzy and power charge generation through support gems and items, but still anything which smooths it out is good and potentially saves your support gem later on. So that's like the core setup you want to go for. I don't take hasty reconstruction because I don't see the point of cooldown recovery for traps anymore. They've also nerfed cooldown reduction on Saboteur. This, since it will only affect your bear trap, which you're only using for bosses, and your 8-second traps, which you're only using for bosses, in my opinion, it's not worth going for. If you're doing very long sustained boss fights, say like Uber Elder, yes, you'll want them, but that's like 2 people who watch this video. So for everyone else for mapping, just don't bother getting that at all. Back to the TLDR stuff. So what has been generally nerfed across the board? There has been a few fairly significant nerfs. So Stormfire used to give ramping damage for each ignited enemy. That's now capped to only give you damage per ignited enemy. You can't stack it multiple times on the same thing. Dietus used to give 100% more burning damage. It's now 100% increased burning damage. So that is a absolutely insane nerf, which is a bit of a shame. I was kind of hoping it'd go under the radar, but it needed to be nerfed. It was broken. Very interestingly, Breach normal and magic mobs now drop significantly less loot. Very interesting to see. Breach will probably still be very profitable to run, but not as profitable as it was before. Ice Trap, they actually nerfed Ice Trap. Well, they've buffed all the other traps. Ice Trap had its base damage nerfed. Yes, it no longer has a cooldown, but I don't see any reason to run Ice Trap. I would just rather use Ice Nova Trap, Cold Snap Traps, Frost Bomb Traps, Whispering Ice Traps, just do Call to Fire. Yeah, it seems really weird. It already had a very weak base AoE. I played an Ice Trapper in Bestiary and the AoE was terrible. Instead, I'd much rather just use any other trap. So they didn't buff the AoE and they nerfed its damage. Yeah. Also, Ethereal Knives is now absolute dumps of trash. It's lost a whole 5 damage. So yeah. Still pretty broken, by the way. More general stuff that's changed. Arcane Surge now apparently supports traps, totems, and mines. This is very nice to the new buffed Bear Trap. I could see Bear Trap, Arcane Surge, increased duration being a staple if that works the way I think it does. Very, very nice. Detonate Dead has basically been buffed by all enemies. Strong boxes and monsters cast it faster, so really watch out for Detonate Dead strong boxes and just beyond in general. Just much scarier, much more likely to kill you. Elder Circles, as we know, is dead, but there's now this thing called Influence Squares. Both Grimro and Thin have some videos, so check those guys out on YouTube. I'm sure Carve will probably come up with the setup as well. And memory fragments have been completely reworked and are much less of a headache to get. The Zana mods for this league, no Nemesis, Bloodlines, Perinus, or Harby. However, you can get the Harby orbs from Incursion, so that's pretty good. Abyss is now on 7, 1 guaranteed Abyss. It costs 5 Chaos. This is actually pretty impactful for people who like to craft high-level jewels. You know, you just run the high maps, force the Abyss spawns, get those nice high base eye-level jewels. Very, very interesting for some people. And Breach is back on Zana 8 at 6 Chaos, 2 Breaches, but they have nerfed the Breach loot. It's almost definitely still worth running, but just keep it in mind it won't be as good as it was before. And then just some closing thoughts on the patch in general. A little disappointed about a few skills not getting any changes. Both Explosive Arrow and Stormcall not getting any changes was quite surprising to me. So there's been this big Ignite rework. Yes, EA has gained some damage through the Ignite rework, but it was like admitted from that. It wasn't included in that buffs at all. And then they've also buffed both Earthquake and Frostbomb, you know, reducing their base duration. But then they didn't do that to either Explosive Arrow or Stormcall. It just felt a bit weird. They've said, hey, these skills, you know, their base duration felt a bit shitty. And then they didn't do that for EA or Stormcall. And also, the new Infernal Blow looks very powerful, but the new Infernal Blow is basically what Explosive Arrow should be. So yeah, I was just a little surprised by that. I was also a little shocked that Ice Spear didn't see any mention, because they made a point of bringing Ice Spear up in one of their earliest manifestos. So all of us were expecting a rework, but it just didn't happen. On that note, though, there will always be skills which need buffing. They've buffed a tremendous amount of skills, and while I'm a little bit disappointed about Explosive Arrow in particular, really, if your favorite skill didn't get buffed, I wouldn't rag on GGG. They did an amazing job and buffed a lot more than they thought they would. So overall, it's worth it. They did a very, very good job buffing stuff, and there's a bunch of buff skills I didn't even mention, which are still more than playable. I do want to buy some nerfs to Kinetic Blast and Sunder. I think nerfing Kinetic Blast and Sunder would make a lot of these skill buffs feel a little bit more interesting. And also, there is a million new 3D arts. Like, we have a lot more 3D arts. That's very nice if people are obsessed with MTX. And overall, it's just been a really, really nice patch. I'm very pleased. I was surprised by just how much stuff was improved. And I think this will be a very nice shake-up for the meta. Ignite, I think Ignite will be good. For map clear, I don't think you'll be like doing any insane boss killers with it, but you'll have more than enough damage for most people. And I'm very excited to play some serious trap action. And one thing I will also say, nearly all of the spells, you know, a lot of the spells have been buffed more so than melee. So if you've ever wanted to get around to trying out some caster stuff, this is really the patch to do it. Although, that being said, you'll mostly be doing, like, totems, traps, mines, because self-casters still feel a little bit weak in comparison. But yes, I'm Tarke. I'd like to thank Twitch chat for the easy subs. Sorry, YouTube people, for having to put up with all the French team dudes, but gotta get them mums, I will be doing a lot of build guides leading up to the 3.3 launch. Have a good day. Bye-bye.